I am thrilled to welcome my next guest, the wonderfully funny Kate Flannery, who is probably best known for playing Dunder Mifflin's loosest cannon, Meredith Palmer, on The Office during all of its 9 hit seasons. She has appeared all over TV, the stage, and in films, most recently as the mysterious high school lunch lady Loretta. I love lunch lady Loretta. In the new horror thriller comedy The Prank, in theaters March 15th, Kate Flannery, welcome to Group Text.
Melissa Rivers, how are you?
Good, how are you? So the movie is dark with a capital D, but it's also very sweet and funny coming-of-age story about two best friends trying to finish high school and face their futures. Summarize for us what the film is about.
Well, basically, these two students hate their teacher, played by Rita Moreno, the amazing Rita Moreno.
Yes.
And so they devise a prank to get at her, and it works for a while. But this movie has a horror component, lots of comedy. It's a dark comedy with horror accents,
which is very trendy right now. I say, but it is.
It is, yeah. And this is so well done. Maureen Baruch is the director. Amazing. It's my second time working with her. I worked in a movie with her called Golden Arm, which is on HBO right now. It's that was a really fun arm wrestling movie. Really fun. I just think the cast was great. We just had a great time shooting it. And there aren't a lot of, indie films you have to be willing to take out the trash when you do an indie film. I don't care what you're getting paid. You still have to be super flexible, and you have to be of group mind. And I've done dozens because I'm like an ensemble person. I worked at Second City. I was in the ensemble of The Office. I really felt like that was one of the truest TV ensembles, in my opinion.
Well, as I say, it had to be overwhelming though, because again, you're saying it's an independent film. It's not something you would expect someone like Rita Moreno to be in.
But I met her at a film event last year for the female nominees for the Oscars, and she is the most generous, real, educate. Like her life education is amazing, much like your mom. It's like there's no BS. What you see is what you get, and she has a life education that is more valuable than any PhD from Harvard, in my opinion.
Well, yeah, it's like these women who are just these old, and I say old, not like old, war horses.
Yes. And also, I always think of, your mom's statement, if you can't get through the front door, go through the window, go through the side door. Like, don't wait to be invited through the front door. Like, just keep moving and don't just keep showing up. And I think, God, I was 40 when I got The Office, so I am definitely a late bloomer. I was 55 when I did Dancing with the Stars. God help me. I can't believe that was 4 years ago. But yeah, and now I'm 32. So yeah, thanks to Plexus.
I was going to say, yes. And also it's Hollywood math.
Right. This is true.
Okay. Meredith was definitely kooky.
For sure. Yeah.
And then along comes Loretta.
Right. Well, I'm so pleased getting to be on it's so rare for women to actually get to play a real, fully fleshed out character that doesn't involve just being a mom or just being someone's wife or someone's girlfriend or sister. So I feel like Meredith, I'm so proud that I got to do like this character that she was a mom, but that wasn't the basis. That wasn't, and I got to do a ton of physical comedy. Loretta is a little more maniacal and she's a little bit of a control freak. The lunch lady does have a lot of control, because if you really want those extra fries, it's like you got to be nice to the lunch lady. It's like literally, it's like messing with the bartender. They can totally flag you and kick you out. So yeah.
The lunch lady, I never thought about it that way, really is the top of the organizational chart in the terms of power.
And she could say, sorry, no more pizza if you piss her off, and there's nothing you can do. You can't go over her head. It doesn't work like.
No, because then she'll just deny food, and when you're in high school, you're kind of a prisoner.
Totally. Yeah. So this movie really captures some of that. I love, that we're getting to this dynamic that sort of touches a lot of I forgot about my lunch lady, and I'm like, oh my God, how could I forget about my lunch lady? I could see her. I mean, it's so interesting.
But you bring up high school, right? Like you remember your lunch lady. The movie is set in a present day high school with social media and the rumor mill and how students think and behave. And just like me, this is very different than your high school experience. Did it give you any insight or did it frighten you terribly? Because I know with my son, it frightened the hell out of me. I think about if social media had been around, I probably would have been in jail.
I think I would have been homeschooled, but my mother would never homeschool me. But yeah, it's horrifying to think. The most horrifying thing about social media to me is finding out every single party you don't get invited to. You know about everything, and you have to make peace with it. And that's a very mature concept that, high school Kate was not that mature. Oh, I wish it was.
Really? High school Melissa was super mature, especially coming from my household. Oh yeah. Yeah. That was, I was the poster child for well-adjusted in high school. And we're talking about high school because clearly damage from your childhood attracts you to these women. What happened to you? Are you still processing your childhood trauma? I mean, seriously, I think it would have been cheaper to go to acting school than therapy. was that the decision?
I've done both. So I've wasted all my money. I mean, I think it's great to get into the mind of women who have a different life from me, but clearly, I side with them in some way, I mean, having, spent a little time in this movie, The Prank, I feel like it's an interesting place to live. I don't want to live there forever. I just want to visit. So it was a nice visit. We had fun. And Rita Moreno actually talks about the fact that this role that she's playing is the meanest part she's ever played. And she loved every second of it. So it's very interesting. This was a real opportunity to do something a little different, and but also in a way that I think speaks to a younger audience. But I think it'll speak to everybody. It's just a fun movie. Meredith Palmer in it. It's really fun. We had a great time.
Super, and that comes through.
Yeah, for sure. And I did a bunch of scenes with John Kimmel, Jimmy's brother. He's very funny, very tall, and very funny.
Very tall. I mean, Jimmy's not super tall.
No, John is tall. Yeah, wow. Which I love being on screen with a tall person because my boyfriend's really tall. It's very slimming to be with a tall person.
I'm gonna think about that because because my fiance is really tall.
Hey.
I never found it to be slimming. But I suppose it is, at least psychologically.
No, absolutely. If you look at pictures of the way it's, and two of you are framed bigger, so you are going to be smaller. I'm telling you, it's win-win-win. And Melissa, I remember this. You and I were in a celebrity charity baseball game at Dodger Stadium. I had no business. I think I was catcher. I had been second string catcher in 8th grade, which of course qualified me to be at Dodger Stadium with. Oh my God, it was fun and so insane.
I was, and I remember this, the lead off batter.
Yes, you were.
And I was like, what the fuck? And
Meatloaf was pitching. Maybe not at first, but I think, was Meatloaf the first pitcher? He may have been the first, God rest his soul.
By the way, I just was cleaning stuff out and I found my bat from that.
I still have my jersey. Although when I go back to Philadelphia, they want to kill me.
Okay, but we're going to get to Philadelphia in a minute because there's all sorts of Philly stuff going on today. I don't know if you just...
I heard, yes, I'm aware.
I watched the press conference just now and everyone's being... By the way, Had I realized, I would have worn my Philly Flybirds sweatshirt.
No, right? I should have had it on.
I walked in here and I go, guys, I'm having a really, really sad day. And they're like, oh my God, what happened? I'm like, Jason Kelsey just retired. And they're like, you're so stupid. This was karma that we were meant to be together today.
Yeah, we need to have a drink, whether it's through Zoom or in person. It doesn't matter. Yeah,
excuse me. On my desk, I have my Eagles garden gnome. It's not genius.
On my floor, I have a bottle of Kettle One. You can't see it. Sorry, it's not. Okay.
So I was about to ask you talk to you about this because, hold on. Oh shit, he fell over. Oh God, now my Anna Wintour bobblehead just broke or fell over. She came off her toothpick. Hold on, see? There she goes. See, look.
Yes.
And she can also be a keychain.
For the biggest purse on the planet, right?
Yes, but she's next to my Eagles little mini garden gnome on my desk. Yeah, I am not a well person. And I've been going back and forth with my cousins who grew up in, so I want to talk about Ardmore.
Right, that's where I'm from. Oh my gosh, that's so crazy.
And I went to Penn. I know the main line well.
I was at University of the Arts when you were at Penn. So yes, yeah, and we drank on Penn's campus because we didn't really have a campus.
There you go. So my cousins grew up in Ardmore. They went to Episcopal.
Oh my God, of course.
Where did you go?
I went to Archbishop Carroll with the nuns.
Very nice. Well, you are, was it one of six?
One of seven.
One of seven and a twin.
Yeah, my sister and I don't look alike though. We could do voiceover. She could take my voiceover job. She sounds just like me. She's actually way funnier than I am. For real, for true. She's hilarious.
Was your family funny? Because you don't think of the main line as being, there's no this week at the Ardmore Yuck Yucks.
You know, a lot of funny people in Ardmore. I absolutely. And no, I mean, being Irish, my dad owned a bar. He was hilarious. He was the best. He would tell a joke, pour a drink. It was a big 4-sided bar. Pour a drink, land the joke, and move. Like it was like he was just the best timing. I learned from the best for sure. No. I mean, Irish people, if they're not funny, something's wrong. Something's real. They're married to their cousin or something, and they had kids. Something's wrong. You have to have a sense of humor.
Yeah, they're married to their cousins. What are they? The Habsburg dynasty? Are you the only one in your family who had who had ambitions to be in the entertainment business?
I was so obsessed with Annie when I was in 6th and 7th grade, and I wanted to audition for the touring company, and my mom wouldn't let me. And I'm so grateful that she didn't let me. I'm really grateful because every time I work with a kid actor, I just worry because they don't always, and even when it goes well, it doesn't always end well. It's tough. So I'm very grateful. My mom finally let me do a regular show. I did a dinner theater show when I was a senior in high school at Riverfront Dinner Theater, and I got to it was really fun. I got to do like 8 shows a week. It was a blast. I learned a lot.
So you sing as well?
I do. I actually I sing with Jane Lynch. We actually have been touring for the last 9 years. Yeah, and we did a Christmas album 7 years ago, and so every Christmas we perform with this Tony Guerrero Quintet, this great jazz band, and it's not a hostage situation. There's some comedy, but there's some real singing, and we're just sort of our TV personas, a little heightened on stage. But we played the Carlisle, we played the Kennedy Center. I think with this Christmas coming up, we're going to be at Steppenwolf in Chicago for a bunch of shows. So we have a great time.
I was going to ask you about that, and you have this funny, was it the talk show?
My Dying Lounge Act, the Lampshades.
Yes.
Is on major hiatus right now because my partner quit show business and I have to talk him back into it. But yeah, we were Dying Lounge Act, and we used to do mashups of 70s and 80s songs. And we were called the Lampshades, and we were sort of in that cover band comedy world. We would open for the Dan Band, Puddle's Pity Party, Garfunkel Notes, like just sort of this lovely, fun. We played a ton of comedy clubs, a ton of comedy festivals. And it was just kind of a great little crazy act, but we were characters and it was fun. It was a blast.
But you come out of Second City. So yes. This is no surprise that this is where your sort of happy place is in these live performing situations. Making the transition to TV, even though you were with a lot of improv actors and ensemble people, which is really Second City type performing, how hard was it to adjust to not hearing the laugh, the immediacy?
My biggest issue, I think, I understood what the laughs were. I think when I first started, I was on the show, I would get notes like, that was great, but can you just do a little less, I had to really figure out my relationship to the camera because I'm so used to, I have a rubbery face and I've made, I physical comedy, you play to the back of the house. But you have to, I definitely learned a different relationship. I'm so grateful that they were patient with me. Cause sometimes it's like, she didn't get it, forget it, and then you get written out or you're just done. So I'm so grateful I had all that time. And it's funny, I knew Steve Carell from Second City. We were there at the same time. We weren't in the same cast, but he was like a senior when I was like a freshman. So he was, I was a big fan of his and he was legend for sure. And when I first came to Second City, Chris Farley was just about to get hired for SNL. Jane Lynch was literally understudying for Bonnie Hunt, and then I became her understudy like a year and a half later. It became such a weird, small, wonderful world.
Isn't it crazy when you look back at the history of Second City?
Who's
been a part of it? Who you're saying? Like Steve Carell was ahead of you, Chris Farley was ahead of you, Jane Lynch was ahead of you. Who was with you?
Scott Adsit, who was on 30 Rock, he played Pete. Oh my gosh. Tom Purcell, who was he's the Stephen Colbert head writer. Colbert was there, but in a different cast. But we were all sort of all together. I even, Dave Koechner was there when I was there. David Koechner, oh my God, John Favreau, who could not get hired at Second City. I did shows with him at the Annoyance, which is crazy. He was like a host seating people, which is hilarious to think he could. Yeah, it was, Nia Vardalos was there when I was there. Amy Sedaris. There was so many, it was quite a time. It really was.
Did you because you had to know the history of Second City when you went into it.
Oh yeah.
When you got accepted, was there that moment of, wow, I can really do this?
I feel like the job really was the prize. Touring is a little, touring we were doing, when you first start touring, you don't, back then, in particular, we didn't do our own material. That came later. They let people do like original material that they would improvise. So we were doing like best of shows. And it was fun. I was also working at the Annoyance. I was like up for SNL, didn't get it. My friend got it. It was like, it was intense, but I felt like there's something about Second City that's just a vetting process. It's just like, it's the, if you're in the improv world and you've faced like some disappointments, like that's part of the deal, and yet you keep showing up. And I have other friends like, my friend Rose Abdu, she's on Hacks and a million other shows.
I love her.
Yes, like we just talk about like having been like in a van in the middle of nowhere, we were just like, oh God, you play colleges and sometimes, some of the guys in the group would sort of, grandstand and like be super critical and cut the women to like, we had less to do in the show. And it was a different time for sure.
But by the way, my mother went through the same things with the men at Second City.
Yes, for sure.
Hopefully they've evolved a little.
Luckily, from what I understand, and there's a big board there now that is holding everyone accountable and putting everybody's feet to the fire to make sure that doesn't happen again. But of course, it was the late 80s, early 90s, Now I'm in my late 80s, early 90s. That sure feels like, but you know what I mean? It's like a weird, you go through these things where you're like, oh my God, and women, young women today, like they can't even believe it. I mean, not that they don't have their own issues to tackle for sure. But the blatancy of the sexism, it was like, sorry, I just knocked over my Anna Wintour
Vodka.
podcast. Yeah.
It's okay. You can pick it up. We're all family here.
My Zoom background's gonna blur it out anyway, right?
Yeah, who cares? I never tell what's in my mug.
And you shouldn't.
No.
And you should.
And you were in my old house. You did, which I can't believe was 10 years ago, in bed with Joan.
Yes, and I was so excited because I had the same comforter and pillow shams. I was like, oh my God. Because your mom always had such amazing taste, and I always loved the jewelry and just the insight. You guys were, oh my God, you were just such a great team on the red carpet.
What is crazy, though, was you were promoting, that week was the final episode of The Office.
That's wild. I forgot that. That's wild.
How, can you think back and think, how did that feel? I mean, I know, especially with like when we stopped doing the red carpet, and then really profoundly at the end of Fashion Police and that last episode and having to say goodbye, is a very profound moment, and it's so hard to walk off that last day.
Yeah, well, I remember our last day shooting in The Office, we were all 2 hours late for the wrap party because I'm telling you, our showrunner, Greg Daniels, was like, how about this? A couple more pages. I want to try it like this. It's like he didn't want it to end. And we were all feeling the same way. I mean, it's the biggest champagne problem in the world. It really is. But you grieve. There's grief involved, and a lot of people can't relate to it, but it's a graduation, and you don't know what your next school is going to be. You don't know where you're going to be a freshman, so it's tough.
That's a great way to look at it. And what's crazy though is The Office has been off the air for 10 years, which is longer than it was on the air, which is even more bizarre. But the fan base is still rabid, and there's a new generation discovering it. My son, I guess, was over the second semester last year and into the summer, binged the entire series.
Well, we were the #1 show during COVID because people couldn't go to their real office, so they came to ours, and it made them feel more normal, which I find so interesting. We were the #1 show that was downloaded during the pandemic, which is crazy. So the fandom is insane. I literally get recognized by the back of my head, like no joke.
Where do you think Meredith is now?
I think she's still a Dunder Mifflin. I think she's a cockroach. I think she's somehow figured out how not to get fired. Do
you think it's going to come back? Do you think there's going to do like Will and Grace has come back, and this one's come back, and that one's come back? Is there any desire to do that?
I mean, I would love to, but I understand if we don't, why we don't. I think that the comedy culture is under such a microscope right now, and Michael Scott is like, I mean, the smart thing about our show is that he never insults anyone unless they're in the proximity, so you get the person's point of view who's being insulted. But it's a very prickly time for comedy, and I really hope we make it through, because I feel like a lot of the networks have lost their sense of humor because they're so afraid. And my feeling is that in general, comedy is a form of communication that we all have, and whether you see it on TV or not, whether it goes away on TV, it's still going to exist. And I think that smart comedies help people feel better. And I think our intentions were always, really, really good. And I think that, Michael Scott is, I mean, they used to say, if you don't know Michael Scott, you are Michael Scott. Like, you're unaware of yourself.
Yeah.
Of your, inappropriateness. But I think that I just hope we survive this time. I I fear that the cancel culture is just so rabid, and it's so unnecessary. I mean, your mother was such a straight on. She fought it right in the moment all the time, and nobody does that anymore. And it's really.
Do you find performing live? Are you starting to see a shift back to the middle? Because I always wonder with comedians, and I always ask them, how hard was it performing live during all this, especially, all the woke and all of this, and realizing you could be canceled for something being taken out of context? But a lot of the ones that I've talked to now said they start to feel like the boat is righting a little.
Yeah, it's definitely getting better, but yeah, the problem is that when you improvise, sometimes, as I do, and Jane Lynch and I do, I mean, we do have, a structure to the show, but it can go off the rails very quickly in a great way. But that's the beauty of performing live. But I think that, that's the only fear, is that in improv, you might say something that might be taken out of context. But I mean, I think there's more people are standing up to it. I just hope it reflects on TV and in the movies again.
I hope so too, but it's got to be terrifying performing live, being creative, coming out of improv, and being innately funny. That something, and I have to be careful all the time myself, that something will just fly out of your mouth.
Yeah.
And it might be hilarious, but I mean, my son's always like, Mom, you can't say that. And I'm always like, saying this kind of shit pays for your school, pays for your college tuition.
Oh my God. Ugh. But I think so much of it is because of the, unfortunately, the politics is so messed up, and this is so much bigger than just one thing. It's just like, it's the perfect awful storm of all this shit. So it's a bummer. I think we're going to get through it. I hope we get through it in my lifetime. I don't know. I hope your son Cooper has a moment where he doesn't feel like his kids will say to him, "You can't say that."
We have to discuss Dancing with the Stars. I mean, then you also joined their live touring show. Was this an attempt to do Black Swan 2? What got into you?
Too cheap to join a gym. Forced in front of hundreds and millions of people to move. Seriously, I am that person. I'm like, when I have that pressure, because I was so out of shape when I first started, and I actually just really enjoyed it. And then when they offered me the tour, I ended up doing most of the tour because the tour got cut. I think I was supposed to do 54 of their 80 shows, and then of course COVID cut it all short. So I think I did 45. So I'm so proud of myself. The tour was the hardest part because you cannot party and you're on a bus. You're only in a hotel one night a week. They kind of were a little vague about that when I signed the deal. I thought there'd be more hotels, but it was a great experience. I mean, the audiences, the fans of Dancing with the Stars, I thought that show was so uncool initially. And then once I got in, I was like, oh, the process is unbelievable. I'm dancing with someone who is literally a 7-time national champ, and he and his wife they're international black pole champs. Like, I have no business dancing with Pasha. Like, this is nuts. But I will say he was just such a positive person, and I feel like, it was nice it was his first season, and it was just nice to kind of feel like, hey, I'm a little like, there were literally odds in Vegas, and I was like, I was not even on the chart. Like, they didn't think I would last at all. So I was happy. I only missed 2 shows. So I felt I went really far for me. It was great.
Wait a minute. Bus, only one night. So how many of you, did you sleep on the bus between? How many people are on the bus? And how do you deal with the bathroom situation? Because you're not, what's it say? There's a thing like you're not supposed to
poop on the bus.
Flush poop on a bus. Yeah, thank you.
On the bus. No. I had the bedroom. Me and Whoopi Goldberg, we had the bedroom. Just kidding, she wasn't there. I think there was like 8 of us on the bus, and it was interesting. And then and Sasha brought his little dog, Ruby, which is hilarious. But yeah, there were 2 buses for dancers, and then the crew bus, and then all the sets and stuff. It was a lot. And I will say, I had toured before on a bus, but back in like literally 1994, and Anna Gasteyer was on that tour. We did the Really Brady Bunch. So funny. You never know. But I was like, wow, this is full. So it was a pretty cushy bus, but still, luckily I am of show. This is why I do indie movies, because I understand what it's like to be, one of the, they say that you're above, but you're equal. Like everybody's just in this up to their eyeballs. This is just how it goes. But it really was a great experience. I mean, literally, we did not do a show that was under 3,000 people. The crowds were, I got to do a comedy monologue at the top of the show and do a couple dances from the show. So it was great. It was a great way to, for my comedy chops as well. And I literally got to host at Radio City, 6,000 people. I've never heard laughter like that. To me, that was really like one of the things I will take away from that experience. Is like, it just sort of informed everything. It's nice to show up for things and get so much energy back.
I'm just very impressed that you lasted in a bus with 8 people and no one killing each other over hot water. That's all I'm going to say.
I've seen the drama in the past, and I'm like, I don't bite. I mean, this is why I've had so much therapy, and
Hey, all of us. Kate Flannery, thank you so much. Don't forget, The Prank is out starting March 15th. Thank you so much.
It's going to be in theaters first, select theaters.
Theaters first. Yes, theaters first, because those are all the new rules to be eligible for any kind of award. You must be, and I just read this the other day, certain amount of theaters for a certain amount of days. So yes.
Yes, and don't come for me. Come for Rita Moreno. You're going to love her. She's great.
Just come for the movie.
Oh, yeah. Thanks, Melissa. So nice to talk to you.